Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast from Visit Aurora from the rafters of the Stanley Marketplace. This is the show dedicated to telling the stories of Aurora, Colorado. Hi there, I'm Dave, Senior Marketing Manager for Visit Aurora. Quite literally across the street from us is the burgeoning Central Park neighborhood. It's a neighborhood in its former life that was the site of Stapleton International Airport. Only a few relics of that past remain, none standing more defiantly than the air traffic control tower just west of us, now home to FlyteCO Tower, a 20,000 square foot restaurant, brewery, and entertainment space boasting 3 levels, 3 bars, a bowling alley, an arcade, a huge outdoor patio. Today, we're joined by co-founders of FlyteCO Brewing, Eric Serani and Morgan O'Sullivan. Thanks for joining us, fellas.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
You literally started an aviation-themed brewing company, and to have one of your flagship locations in an air traffic control tower seems like the stars aligning, right?
Yeah, I definitely have to pinch myself when I think about how serendipitous it all feels. But yeah, what a wonderful opportunity and in such a great neighborhood and an iconic space. It's been really cool.
Eric, you and your other co-founder Jason turned a home brewing kit into a serious hobby. Do you remember how that first beer came out?
Not great. We were in college at the time, so it had alcohol in it, which was the main objective of the endeavor. So in that sense, it worked. But after that, Jason is a chemical engineer and really got into the recipe creation side of things, really delved into balancing the perfect beer, while I was more of a systems engineer in aerospace engineering courses at CU. And I started making temperature-controlled fermentation vessels so we could really control the process. And over the years, it started to get really good, and people couldn't tell the difference between our homebrewed beer and stuff you got at the brewery down the street. So, it really improved over the years, but the first one was not great.
At what point did it go from like a hobby to, maybe this is exaggerating, but an obsession?
When I moved next door to Morgan. We became quick friends. Morgan was very well connected in the service industry around town and had a lot of chef friends and just a lot of friends in general. And we'd throw big backyard barbecues, and I'd invite my friends, and we cut a hole in our fence and had the beer brewed by Jason and I, so people came and got free beer and delicious food. And
yeah, I mean, it really
spiraled out of control from there.
Yeah, seriously, and in a hurry. I mean, no, it started as really just us wanting to, bring all of our friends together and have it be a little bit different than, just your typical backyard barbecue. So started out, hey, we're going to have some people over and there's going to be 1 beer on tap, and, next party, well, what if we did 3 beers or 4 beers? And then it ended up Eric and I building a couple kegerators out of some old chest freezers. So I think we had the ability to have 8 different beers on tap in the backyard. We built a big tent over the entire backyard so that when those summer rainstorms roll through, our party didn't stop. We had friends that were professional stand-up comedians that would come perform.
Okay.
We did a lip sync contest one year, built a stage, the whole 9 yards. And none of it was to make money. None of it was to further any real end goal other than to just be the spot that people could come together and enjoy good beer in each other's company. And over the couple years that we were neighbors doing that, really developed a passion for the beer making side and really just that sense of community that we were building. And it was, well, why don't we try to do this for a living? Enough of the people like the beer. We obviously have the experience side dialed in. Let's go for this. And Jason and Eric both as pilots and aviators and growing up in families that were very passionate about that and are to this day. When we decided, hey, what's our theme going to be? How are we going to stand out from the crowd? Because there's a few breweries here in Denver.
Right.
The aviation was the obvious choice. So yeah, that's a little bit of the origin story there.
Morgan, you and Eric become neighbors, friends. You're bonded by this shared enthusiasm for beer. You also have the sales and business acumen to kind of handle that side of the enterprise. What was turning that hobby into a business full time your idea, or did Eric come to the pitch like, "Hey, we need your help to scale this"?
Yeah, I think it was definitely something that Eric and Jason had talked about for years in advance. More of a the typical pipe dream conversation of like, "Hey man, if I didn't work corporate corporate, I would really want to own a brewery, and we can make some good beer. We should do this someday. And I think that the catalyst was those parties was not to talk it up too much, but me kind of coming onto the scene and being like, well, let's do something with this. So I think it was 2014, Eric came to me and said, hey, do you want to write a business plan? And I was like, sure, I don't know how to do that, but let's figure it out.
Right.
And we did. We sat down, we wrote a plan. It took us the better part of 5 years to take that plan from ideas in our head to a physical location. We opened our first spot on 38th and Tennyson in March of 19. And so, a lot of trial and error, a lot of long conversations, and a lot of no's from different banks trying to procure funding, and a lot of no's from different landlords and commercial real estate brokers trying to find a location. It was long and arduous, but at the end of the day, it worked. And we were able to open that first location and start making our beer for the masses.
Eric, the delicate chemistry of brewing is fascinating. It's got to take a long time to get to a point where you're winning awards. At what point did you realize, okay, we have something that we're proud to share with the masses? You knew that your product was ready to roll to everybody.
Probably sometime around in that 2013 timeframe of those backyard parties. We just started holding blind taste tests with ourselves, with our friends, just to make sure that we're not crazy, that we think our beer is really good.
You had a captive focus group.
Yeah. And in the parties that we did have, we were giving away the beer for free, so free beer always tastes better than
it was
free beer. But
interesting to approach that, right? Because you invite your friends over and say, hey, I made this beer. Do you want to try it? People are naturally inclined to just be appreciative and be like, oh man, this is great. Like, I couldn't make beer like this. There's a really big difference between I can't make beer like this and I would pay money for this if I didn't know you in a commercial setting.
Yeah, it's hard to get that actual critical feedback in that kind of environment. It's almost like the music industry. If you're in a band and you put out a song, your friends are going to love it, even if it's not great.
If you invite me over for dinner at your house, I'm going to be stoked whatever you cook, because you cooked it for me. You were gracious enough to allow me to be a guest in your home. So jumping from that type of feedback to true, honest feedback, doing the blind taste tests, going out to friends and acquaintances in the restaurant world, and giving them our product and saying, hey, real talk, would you serve this in your establishment? Would this go with the type of food that you have? And really starting to get some real feedback was a big confidence boost to be able to try to pursue this long term.
I talked to Javi and Jen downstairs at Chaloon. I don't know if you know those two, but they said that the brewing community in Colorado is really collaborative. People are willing to help each other out. There's a shared appreciation for the art. Did you find folks in the brewing community being supportive and giving you feedback and helping you with your processes and everything?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the driving factors that most brewery owners get into the business is the collaborative nature of the brewing industry. Everyone helps each other out. Everyone shares information. Recipes aren't off limits. Ingredients, if you have extra and get rid of it. It's a community. It's everyone in it together, to kind of create this culture that is more vibrant. It is better than just boring old regular beer.
Yeah, I think that for the three of us, the idea of being entrepreneurs and kind of doing our own thing, being our own bosses, was for lack of a better term, the shiny, sexy thing about starting your own business. And then the beer side and having an obsession with that, having a product that we were proud of to build a business around was huge. But the part that I really fell in love with through that process is what you're describing, the collaborative nature of the beer industry, where these three guys that don't know enough coming in and trying to learn everything on the fly, and being the guy in the room that's like, I don't know as much as these people, and just how welcoming they were, and open to sharing everything that we would need, access to resources and contacts. Talking to Jordan down at Woods Boss for contract brewing to get up some of our initial batches that we served, talking to Ryan Evans at Brews, which is right down the street from where Eric lives, and constantly going with him like, hey, when you ran into this problem when you were starting up, how did you solve it? And it wasn't a trade secret. He would give you, not only would he give you his best answer and what he did, but then he would give you the list of contacts that you needed of people to call for additional advice or follow-up. And so that part of this this startup phase, I truly fell in love with the beer world and the culture that it comes with, because it's so different from the corporate backgrounds.
How does that dynamic work when it comes to running an enterprise like FlyteCO Brewing? You have 3 smart young guys with probably very strong opinions on what's good and what's not. How do you navigate differences of opinions and personality, especially when this is everyone's baby?
Yeah, it's a balance. Just recognition of everyone's strengths that we bring to the table. We're all 3 very different people, and we each manage a different side of the business that's very important in its own way, and we have different capabilities. It's taken us a while to figure that out, but once you do, it's really powerful.
Yeah, one of the key ingredients is definitely time and patience.
Yeah.
To be able to learn the strengths and weaknesses of your partners. Also, to just not bring your ego into the conversation. We consistently have idea sessions and have really developed a good process around how we decide what direction we're going. There are a lot of decisions that we've made over the years, both good and bad, and I have no way of tracing back to whose idea it was, because it doesn't matter. A good idea is a good idea. It doesn't matter who it came from. Those are the ones that should win out. And so, checking your ego at the door, which is easier said than done.
Right.
And hey, that's a great idea. Doesn't matter whose idea it was. Let's see that to completion. I think has been integral in that process.
You're a couple of months in now at FlyteCO Tower. What's the first few months been like, and how has the reception been?
I mean, yeah, community support has been awesome. Central Park is such a tight-knit space. Everybody talks to each other. The story that I really have gravitated towards is Eric and Chris, our general manager, went out door to door to collect signatures for our liquor license.
Okay.
And they knocked on 2 or 3 doors, and very positive response to those folks. And by the time they got to the 3rd or 4th house, the doors started to open before they could knock. Hey, I heard you guys were walking around collecting signatures for your liquor license for the tower. So that's how tight this community is, right? There's almost like that party line where people are updating each other on what's going on in the neighborhood. And that's just been so wonderful to tap into.
It's such a cool space. I mean, it stands out. We don't have a whole lot of spaces in the Denver metro area that kind of stand up as a landmark, so to speak. And it truly does. And then you're a little bit on an island in Central Park to a degree. So I imagine there was a lot of community enthusiasm about the project opening up. Of course, there is some history with the location. That space was also a restaurant and bar previously, and that concept didn't quite work for a bevy of reasons. Strategically, how are you positioning FlyteCO Tower to avoid some of the pitfalls of the previous incarnation?
We're very much focusing on the community's desires and needs. We went around for months asking people what they wanted to see on the food menu and cocktail menu, and just seeing what kind of place they wanted it to be. And we realized pretty quickly that it needed to be very family friendly. So having the arcade, the bowling alley, the mini golf, it's all activities that kids can go do while the parents enjoy a beverage and a meal. So yeah, from there, the advantage we have is we're still a small business. The former tenant, Punch Bowl Social, had many locations to run and look after, and then I may or may not have had time to personalize everyone specifically to each individual neighborhood.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because
more focused.
A lot of the entertainment aspects that Eric is mentioning, those were left over from the previous business, and so it's how is that different? And I think it's just our approach to it. The Punch Bowl's model works great for their South Broadway location here in Denver, where it's a lot of younger, early to mid 20s. The majority of their business happens after 10 p.m. Right, a lot of cocktails, a lot of shots. It's a great place to go and party. We had a lot of experience at our other location in the Tennyson neighborhood, starting to understand what it means to be a community gathering space, what it means to be your local neighborhood go-to spot, not necessarily a nightlife spot. And so we came in and realized, like Eric said, that this needs to be fun for the whole family. You need to have those quiet corners for date night. You need to have that space for adults to escape the chaos of the kids. But at the end of the day, we need to lean into the demographics of this neighborhood and the desires of this neighborhood. So we opened our coffee shop concept over there. So we're open right now Wednesday through Sunday at 7 a.m. for coffee, breakfast burritos, and I mean a morning beer. If you just got off night shift and you want to come in for a beer, you can do so. But really allowing the folks in this community to use our space early and all day, and then shifting those business hours a little bit earlier and those busy times a little bit earlier than the previous tenant, I think has been a wonderful success and very well received by the community at large.
There seems to be a real emphasis on FlyteCO Tower being ingrained in the community. It's not a restaurant and a bar along a long row of them like in downtown, which I imagine can both be a benefit and a vulnerability to a degree. You spoke to this a little bit, but how important is it to be ensconced in the Central Park community, and how is some of your programming reflective of that?
So couple different answers for that. One, we're in a little bit of an entertainment oasis, or desert, I should say. We are trying to be the oasis. You have Stanley Marketplace, which is fantastic with a ton of options, and really one of the biggest attractions on this side of town. And then there's a lot of corporate entities that have come in, a lot of chains that provide a product and a service that's valuable to the community, but it's not something that is personalized or unique. It's, you could be anywhere in suburban America and go to one of these chains, and it's no different than the location here. So where's that sense of place? Where's that sense of community? And so it is that double-edged sword, because people do have to travel to get to us, but there is such a densely populated area immediately around us, and that density is just continuing to grow, that don't really have any other options quite like what we offer.
Right.
And so we truly believe that that'll be to our advantage. The other part is really how we try to engage with the different communities that we're involved in. And a lot of that has to do with our charitable efforts. So 10% of our profits go to the future of aviation through local and national scholarship. I'll let Eric tell the story as to kind of how that came to be, but we don't stop at just aviation. We're there. We're constantly throwing fundraisers and silent auctions for schools, and really just trying to raise awareness and funds for causes and organizations that are important to our neighbors, and make those important to us as well.
Speaking of the aviation theme, it is more than just a theme. You have a love for aviation. You pay homage to aviation history in the tower. Can you talk a little bit about why that's so important that FlyteCO honors that history?
For me personally, I'm an aviation geek, so it's just fun for me. But it started out, I took a first ride in a small airplane with my grandfather when I was 3 years old. It was a 1946 Aurora Champ. It was our original logo for the brewery. And then just was hooked ever since that. I soloed that same plane on my 16th birthday.
You flew a plane by yourself on your 16th birthday?
Yep, before driving a car by myself.
You flew a plane before you drove a car by yourself?
Yeah. That was a fun little thing that I was lucky enough to do. But I was lucky enough to do that because my grandfather had a couple airplanes. He had a friend that was a flight instructor. That airplane, it burns very little gas. It doesn't hardly go more than 50 miles an hour. So it was very accessible for me to get into it, but it's not something that most people can get into. After my 16th birthday, you have to be 17 to get your pilot's license and take other people flying with you. My grandfather passed away before my 17th birthday, and his group, the EAA chapter, the Experimental Aircraft Association, it's a national organization of pilots and aircraft builders, home builders, and enthusiasts. They have a chapter up in North Denver, Chapter 43, and they gave me a scholarship, a couple of $1,000 to finish out getting my pilot's license. And I just was so grateful for that moment to not only have access to it, but have a group of people that are willing to fund me getting my pilot's license as a teenager. So I've always felt grateful, wanted to pay it forward ever since then, and that's kind of the basis of our charitable givings, is giving 10% to the future pilots, the people that don't have access to this industry that is, traditionally very closed off, to the elite.
Yeah, there's a lot of barriers to enter. Money being, the biggest one, but then just also knowing the right people. And so by being this space that attracts people from the aviation industry, that attracts pilots, that attracts aviators, and allowing access to folks, whether they're on our staff or patrons or members of the community, giving them access to those pathways of how do they break in? How do they get involved? Do you want to be a drone pilot? Do you want to be an aircraft mechanic? Do you want to fly planes yourself, either privately for fun or eventually commercially around the country and the world. And so the scholarships are just one way that we approach that and try to make it more accessible, and then also just telling the story and generating excitement. I mean, the tower itself does a lot of that. Big old 164-foot air traffic control tower that can be seen from anywhere in the neighborhood. It can be seen from the highway. That really helps generate some excitement. And then decorating the space to match that and trying to tell a little bit of the history of aviation in this neighborhood, because it's suburbia now. Like you have a strong tie here in the building here at Stanley Marketplace, right? The home of the ejection seat, and the owners of this building have done a wonderful job of incorporating the history into the design of this space in the same way that we're doing at ours. And that was really exciting when we were able to announce our partnership with Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum, and that they're going to continue to help us both now and in the future decorate our space with unused museum exhibits, because our goals and our ideals are very closely aligned with the museum. And so it's, what it looks like today is phenomenal, and I'm very proud of what we've done, but it's just the beginning of what we're doing to help tell the story of aviation. If
you haven't been to this space, you see these exhibits from the Wings Over the Rockies Museum, and you guys switch those out periodically as well. So every time you go, there's a different part of aviation history that you can kind of take in.
Yeah, for the first couple years, it'll be adding to fill in the space. I mean, with 20,000 square feet, we have a lot of wall space and a lot of little corners to be able to tell some interesting stories. And then right when we feel like we're done and we've filled the space, with their help, we're going to start over again. And like you said, constantly keep it fresh so that it's you get some little corner, you find some little story that you didn't see the time before, and it just makes it that much more unique and that much more memorable.
Yeah. One of the things that we're working on with them this year that we're excited about is we've got about 100-foot hallway along one of the bowling alleys, and we're going to create a timeline history of aviation with the local area history, Stapleton Airport, Colorado aviation history, military aviation. So it's kind of a fun exhibit for everyone to enjoy.
Give them that sense of place. There's you live in this beautiful suburban neighborhood, and it's important to remember what it was and how instrumental that was in getting the community where it is today.
Back to the beer. Talk about some of the offerings and the scale that space gives you to kind of really spread your wings, and lack of a better term.
Oh yeah, don't stop with the aviation puns. We're here for it.
Our philosophy with beer, just like our philosophy with service, is a little bit of something for everyone. Mm-hmm. So there's something on the menu for the light beer drinkers. Our Flight Light is a great 4% beer that you can just have a couple of on the patio.
Good lawn mowing beer.
Yep.
Nice.
All the way to the barrel aged beers. We have a barrel aged rye IPA, stouts, and everything in between. So
yeah, something for hopheads, something for people to intro to craft beer. Always try to feature a sour or two for folks that are looking for that experience. And then it's been really fun to expand beyond beer with this location with a full wine and cocktail program. And so take that same tenacity, that same passion into full beverage offerings. And so really truly having something for everyone, whether it's on the gluten-free side or away from beer entirely. But yeah, Jason, our partner and master brewer, really takes a traditional approach to the brewing process and makes beers that are very true expressions of their classic style, and then making sure that the variety doesn't necessarily come from the crazy ingredients that we're adding to the beer, but the variety of choices between styles.
I'm glad you mentioned the cocktails. I was really impressed by the selection when you had your media preview when we were able to come over there a couple of months ago. There's a lot of creativity in that space too. Where does that come from? Do you have a bartender on staff that kind of crafts those?
Yeah, so the really rewarding part of this process has been going out and building our team. When we started at the Tennyson location, the three of us would bartend 5 to 6 nights a week, and we started bringing in more employees as things got busier, and being able to take a step back and truly run the business as opposed to just bartending. And I miss it. I love being behind the bar and just shooting the breeze with our customers. But this go around, with the size and scope of this project, we were able to go out and find real seasoned professionals that brought a lot of excitement and knowledge to our team. And so we have a wonderful bar manager with a ton of experience. We've been able to hire some really excellent excellent bartenders. We just launched our fall and winter cocktail menu update. We added about 5 or 6 cocktails to that menu. All of those were directly from our bar staff. So we had a couple weeks of development where everybody had the opportunity to have some input and say, hey, this is my version of a fall cocktail. This is my version, and come together as a team, vote on the best, write those recipes, and then, practice that quality and consistency so that we could launch it to the public, which we did about a week and a half ago now, I think.
They did a great job.
Oh man, there's a smoky mezcal margarita on there that is just to die for. Mm-hmm. But the buy-in from the team, knowing that they have a part in that process, knowing that we trust them enough with menu updates like that, and then having the wonderful managers that can coordinate that employee collaboration and turn it into an action plan that results in a quality product for your guest, has, like I said, been one of the most rewarding parts of this process.
The food is also top notch. It seems like a real emphasis was put on quality, creative recipes. How was that menu developed, and can you highlight some of your favorite offerings?
Yeah. So we worked very closely with a couple of our different food service providers and some of the consultative services that they offer, using the test kitchen. Shamrock Foods has been instrumental. They're just a wonderful group. They're that perfect size of large business to be able to support us with a wide variety of selection on the food service side, but small enough to truly care and invest in local businesses like our own. And so, yeah, there was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of reaching out to the local community. I'm very proud of what we have now, and I'm also even more proud to say that we're not going to rest until we get it perfect. So, every time you come in, there's going to be something new, or there's going to be a tweak that continues to improve the quality and consistency. One of my favorite call outs on the menu right now is that wonton fried pickle. Mm-hmm. We serve beer, we make beer. There's a bowling alley there, so it's like fried pickles, man. Like that just makes sense, right? It's bar food, but instead of your overly breaded pickle chips, it's a dill pickle spear with Munster cheese wrapped around it, wrapped in a wonton wrapper, and deep fried. And so that pickle to breading ratio is just perfect. It's familiar, it's comfortable, but it's unique, and you can't get it anywhere else.
It's elevated but not pretentious.
Exactly. We want our food to be humble and approachable. You want it to be comfortable. You don't want to have to look at the menu and try to figure out what things are. I don't know what I'm supposed to order here. You don't need a picture next to it to figure it out. You just read the description and immediately know what it is. But at the same time, the quality of which is something that you'll keep coming back for, or there's a unique twist on it that you can't find anywhere else. That once again keeps you coming back.
I imagine you get this question daily, both of you and your partner. It seems only natural that the tower itself could serve as an amazing intimate bar or gathering space with a breathtaking overlook. Is that part of the plan in the future?
Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah, you're right. We do get that question daily, multiple times.
I think we have that script written down for the hosts at the host stand.
Yeah. Right now, the tower is in very, very poor shape. It's not in any shape for public access. It's not up to code.
Right.
The elevator doesn't go all the way up. So we're working with our landlord, who is already starting the process. We got a new roof put on the very top, need some new windows, and then the big piece of that is getting the elevator installed. But there are plans for something up there, cocktail lounge or fine dining.
Bungee jumping?
Bungee jumping, oh man. We,
zip line into Central Park.
Zip line straight into Central Park. Water slide, so just a whole amusement park going, no. It'll be cool. The view is absolutely stunning up there. It's the best view in Denver. There's you can see all the way down to Pikes Peak, and then with the city skyline and the mountainscape in the background, it's something that the public needs to be able to see. So
yeah, in terms of specific plans, I think time will tell as we get further into that process what we're allowed and not allowed to do with different city regulations, state, federal code, that kind of thing. But no one is more passionate about opening that space to the public in some way, shape, or form over the next few years than we are. And we're really, really happy to have such a supportive landlord that owns the building, that is a local family that lives here in the Central Park neighborhood. And so they are not only interested in doing that from a business sense, but they're also personally invested in the project because it's something that they would get to enjoy and share with their family because they live here. They're not some corporate entity that lives in New York that's managing it from afar via a spreadsheet. They're in the building helping and enjoying what we have to offer on a weekly, if not daily basis.
For someone coming in from Aurora or anywhere for that matter, and you had to give them, all right, this is my must-try food and beer combo, what are you telling them that is for each of you?
Ooh, off the top of my head, our steak and cheese sandwich, our fries with a red-eye coffee amber. The steak and cheese combo is just delicious. It's perfect amount of cheese to some salty peppers and steak, and then the coffee amber is a really good take on a coffee beer. Traditionally it's done with a stout or a heavier beer, but kind of a lighter beer really allows more of the coffee flavor to come out, so you get to taste kind of malty roasty goodness with the steak and peppers is a good combo.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Morgan, top it.
I got two.
Okay.
One that's available now and one that's coming soon. My go-to, just thoughtless combination, and by thoughtless I mean I don't have to debate whether I want it or not. Papas Locas with our Aero Mexico Mexican lager. So Papas Locas is a dish on our Quick Bites menu. Very, very simple fried potato chips with pickled veggies and hot sauce. Right now we have pickled peppadew peppers on there, curry, pickled cauliflower, pickled artichoke hearts that have a little bit of spice to them, pickled onions, jalapenos, and then we top it off with some fresh cilantro and Murph's electric lime hot sauce. So you get salty, you get sour, you get sweet, you get a little bit of spice, and then paired up with our Mexican lager. It's just to die for. One feeds into the other. Jason uses Motica hops in the Mexican lager, which is a New Zealand varietal. Typically brings with it a little hint of lime essence. So rather than having to put a lime wedge in your Mexican lager, the hops do that for you. So you can get a little whiff of it on the nose. You can get a little bit of it on the finish of the beer, and it just perfectly complements that dish. And it's great because that's what you can start with, and then you can decide what you want for dinner or for lunch, because it is light, it's easy, and it comes out really fast. I think our salad menu is just crushing it right now. And we have our Tipsy Nipper Belgian Saison that's in the tanks now that's going to be released here in a couple of weeks. Belgian beers and Saisons in particular are just such a wonderful beer to play with food because of their complexities. All those flavors are being derived from the yeast and the esters that are produced in that process. And so you can get a lot of banana, clove, and spice notes from that beer with none of those ingredients actually being in it. And so depending on what food you pair it with, it really highlights and brings out or complements different flavors in the beer for different palates. And I've always found that, a salad with a lighter, more citrus vinaigrette really highlights some of those fruity esters in that beer and the pepper notes that you can get on that clove side. And so really any salad, whether it's a Caesar, our Power Greens, or just the house salad with a vinaigrette or with something that has a little bit more of a pungent kick like that Caesar, paired up with a good Belgian Saison, is just such a wonderfully complex pairing, and both are very light, so it's not palate dominating like some of the other recommendations that I would make, like a stout and a big steak or something. Both can be highlighted on their own without overpowering the other.
On that note, it's lunchtime. And now I have lots of inspiration. Make sure you visit FlyteCO Tower at 3120 Uinta Street and learn more at FlyteCoTower.com. Make sure you follow them on social media as well at FlyteCO Tower. Eric Serani, Morgan O'Sullivan, thank you so much for taking the time today, guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast. Visit Aurora is the official destination marketing organization for the city of Aurora, Colorado, and acts as the primary liaison between meeting planners and hotel partners. As Aurora's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Aurora's mission is grounded in showcasing Aurora as a premier destination for meetings, business, and leisure travel. Visit Aurora represents more than 75 plus hotel properties with 13,500 plus guest rooms and more than 1 million square feet of meeting space, including Colorado's largest resort, Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. As Colorado's third largest city, Aurora is located minutes away from Denver International Airport and showcases mountain views, memorable meeting spaces, and 250 plus international eateries that offer a unique experience for each and every visitor. As the gateway to the Rockies, Visit Aurora's role in the local community goes beyond marketing the city as a destination. The Visit Aurora team is here to assist you with your Colorado visit, from facilitating your meeting, event, or convention to helping you discover local flavor and attractions. Go beyond the boardroom in Aurora, Colorado. For more, visit us at visitaurora.com.